I'm Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
On location, back in America, in Let's Talk BL Studios. Although mentally, I'm still in Ayutthaya. Always still in Ayutthaya. You'll find out more about that later this season.
Mentally, I'm in a mall.
Mentally, I'm in MBK.
Always.
My home, my buy.
Oh my gosh. We are back in America after 16 whole days in Thailand.
It was supposed to be less. It ended up being more.
I mean, that feels right.
It feels right.
The amount of times we said this feels right in Thailand.
Truly.
Everything just happened. When I tell you we planned, Ayla planned to a T. We had an itinerary. We had highlights.
And it actually was very useful.
Yes.
For the most
However,
part.
there are things you just cannot plan.
And there are things, if you've never done this before, that you couldn't have planned for.
No.
But we've done it. We've done it now. And we're here to share with the people what we did, how we did it, who we did it with, all of these things. And this is a larger conversation. We've had so many requests, like, can we share?
Many
can
requests.
we tell you how to plan a trip? Like, what it costs, but like all of this stuff. And yes, we will. But we're going to start with truly the most important piece, which is how to plan the BL part of your trip. Because we went into this, let me tell you, I'm a planner. I'm a Virgo. And I went into this truly like, one day I should like block out the like sensitive information and share the 15-page document that I made. And like we got recommendations from real people. We got recommendations from friends that were there. We got recommendations from friends that live there, recommendations from friends that visited there. Yeah. Like this was not solely based on what we found on the internet. Right. This was like advice from real people. And it was very useful in lots of ways. Sometimes it came in clutch.
Right.
But now that we have gone, I have learned so much about how to do this, like as a BL fan.
Just ask Alex. I feel like that's the go-to.
Yeah. So shout out P. Alex. You know her.
Yes.
Don't you?
Love her.
You know her. You love her. We all know her. You love her. But that's not accessible for everyone in real life.
I mean, Twitter. She's pretty accessible on Twitter.
She's pretty accessible on Twitter, but she is also a grown-up with a real job. It is not her job to give everyone advice. So maybe that's poor advice to be like, everyone, poor Alex. Alex, I'm so sorry that Beth Ann just told everyone to at you.
I feel like Alex is pretty like nice and accessible via social media. And if people ask her questions, she will be happy to answer them.
If she has time, please don't hold her to that. She's so busy.
We're not speaking on behalf of her.
Yeah. No, maybe don't take that advice. We're starting this out with some poor advice.
Listen, okay, so all that to say, if you have friends that either live in Bangkok or visit Bangkok, those are the people that you should ask.
But I will say that has to do with like bigger parts of the BL of the trip, not so much the BL part of it.
Right.
So what we're talking about today is the BL part of it.
Right.
It's going to be very distracting for us because we're going to try to talk about like the trip in general, but no. Right. This is the BL part of the trip.
Yes. Okay. So the BL part of the trip, we hit the ground running with the Love Out Loud concert.
Yes. So how to plan your BL shenanigans in Thailand is, first of all, don't pick your dates based on things that are happening there. I would say it's really easy to be like, oh, well, I want to go because of this, because of that. This Love Out Loud thing, stuff gets announced at the last minute in Thailand, or what feels like the last minute for international fans.
Right.
In Thailand all the time. So no matter what, there's going to be probably a big event going on when you're there. So I would say pick your dates not based on a concert or an event or whatever. Pick your dates based on what works for you.
Yeah.
For us, it just happened to work out. We
got so lucky with the dates.
It was my birthday, right? Which was actually the main draw, which is like why I think everybody probably knows why we ended up in that part of the world. But the driver of us being like, okay, yes, we're going to do this, it was my birthday, where we were like, okay, yes, this makes sense. It's like serendipitous, whatever. Yeah. So like we actually planned it around my birthday, not around Love Out Loud.
Right.
So my first piece of advice would be don't plan your dates based on events that are happening. Plan your dates based on what works around you. And I promise there will be events.
However, if you have the money and the resources when they announce a concert literally a month beforehand to go to these things, like go for it. But like, again,
most people, it takes a little more advanced planning.
Because we bought tickets in like April, and that Love Out Loud didn't get announced until July.
Yeah.
So like, to travel internationally from the States or from the West, it feels impossible for you to plan it because these concerts get announced like a month at least.
And so I promise you there, like, even the amount of stuff that popped up while we were there.
I mean, truly, if you think about the times
we got 2 full Counter Turbo concerts.
That was ridiculous.
We found out about those
Atlas concerts
like 2 days before they happened.
Yeah.
So again,
and in like literally the 2 weeks after we left, you have the Z concert and you have the like camping concert with Earth Mix, Jungdunk, and
you have the Prow charity concert that's free and in the mall.
So that's the other thing is that when you go, just know that you're going to miss out on 100 more things.
You're going to miss things.
There are literally thousands of things going on. I mean, we were there and there were just like days where we would jump from event to event. And then at the end of the day, we're like, why did we do all these things?
So number one piece of advice, plan your dates based on what works for you, not what's happening there, because trust me when I tell you there will be plenty of stuff to do. And even if there's nothing that's been like announced when you pick your dates, go with it. Trust me, something will get announced. Trust me. And so based on what you just said, that's mine. I actually like took some notes because you know that's how I roll. Hit the 15-page document.
Yeah.
One of my other pieces of advice, kind of based on what you said, which is pick a top 5. Like so much stuff happens, and there's stuff that we did that we truly should not have done. Fools. We were just like so excited about like, oh my God, there's this appearance. I'm like, we have to go to every single appearance because like
and we have to be there early and we have to get front row seats and like we didn't know.
So
we were at Upsing for 5 hours and we didn't need to be at Upsing for 5 hours.
Although that was kind of on purpose because you were trying to do this like fan lucky draw thing that we didn't know had already been done. Anyways, it was a whole thing. But I will say, I think what we learned is to pick like a top 5, maybe even a top 3, and only focus on appearances for those BL people because otherwise it's too overwhelming. It's too much. You start to get to a point, and this definitely happened to us, where like I got to a point where I felt like we were just running from appearance to appearance, and for what?
We did that one day where we had an event, we had a thing in the morning for the podcast, and then we went to golf, and then we went to Up, and it was like the day was done.
Right. So like you lose your day and it feels like you're just going to go to an appearance, not necessarily you're going to like experience it. Right. Where like we got caught up in being like, oh my God, it's golf, which like that actually was really cool. Like I saw golf like up close because like the golf appearance was super packed. And so I ended up like riding the escalator up and down, like right by where he was sitting because that was the only way to get close. And it was awesome. I saw golf up close with my own eyes. And I will say, like, that was a sight to behold. But
here's what I will
say. Listen, I love Up and I love Cow Up. And I don't regret going to the Up performance. What I regret
being there for so long.
Yes.
We
should have left. We should have shown up, gotten the lay of land, figure out what happened, and then come back.
I will say, I would base it on what type of appearance, because honestly, the golf appearance was a TED Talk, basically. It was an opening of a flagship of a brand that he reps. And so no fans could actually see
you couldn't get close to
on
him.
The floor. You had to be on like the 5 tiers above him. And it was a very long event. We didn't even see him on stage. We literally saw him sitting in the crowd and we saw him go to the bathroom. Like
which was hilarious,
actually go to the bathroom.
Yeah, which was hilarious, actually.
So depending on the event, so like the Jungdunk event, I would say was awesome because we were standing behind the stage, which like, because these are in the center of malls, they like put like a backstage.
A barricade. So it's a barricade and there's not really a backstage. What it is they build these like elaborate, essentially trade show booths, right?
Yeah.
They're essentially trade show booths. And so because they're not pushed up against a wall, you can see behind the trade
stage,
show
yeah.
booth. So you're not backstage.
And it's only like 5 feet of quote unquote backstage that they get. And so there is a barricade up and you can stand there. And we knew like we wanted to be able to like say hello and to have some type of interaction with them because they stand back there for a couple of minutes before they go out on stage. And because like we have no idea what's going on, like what they're saying, what they're talking about.
We did watch them play the little games for a little while, which was fun, even though we don't speak Thai.
And because Omen and Nun had done that appearance weeks before, I was like, I bet they're going to have them sing. And so we did stay for that.
Right, we did stay for them to sing.
But again, because of the way that it was set up, you had to be pretty far back as just general public. So we ended up going to like a different floor to watch them do the performance and do all the things.
And play the games and all that.
And so depending on the appearance, so like we ran into a Mile and Appo appearance, which was actually in a store, so you couldn't actually see them. I mean,
no one could see it. To be completely honest, if you weren't a fan that had been there since like
I don't even know
the mall
what time.
opened. Yeah, the malls open at 10. I found this out when we tried to go purchase something very early in the morning, like before a podcast thing we had to record. If you weren't a fan that was like waiting outside those doors at 10 a.m. because when we got to the mall and it wasn't open yet, there were people waiting outside, like waiting to get into Siam Paragon.
Crazy.
If you weren't one of those people that was then like running to this, I want to say it was like in an Even Boy or something, which an Even Boy is kind of like an Ulta.
It was called like Kiss Farga or something, but like I think
similar,
it's a beauty,
similar vibe, yeah. You were never going to see Mile and Appo with your own eyes. Like that was never gonna, like there were people, and this is another example of like people that were just there to be there where like I almost, again, now that we've been there, done this and moved on, the appearances that were worth it and not worth it, I will say what I wish we hadn't done specifically on like that day and like a couple of the other days was like you get so overstimulated with the idea of like, oh my God, there are the appearances and I can't do this in the States. And like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. Like we have to go to every single thing that it felt like to me, it felt like a lot of times we weren't actually experiencing it. We were just going to be there.
Totally.
And it wasn't an experience because the ones that I remember and the ones that really stick out in my brain are the ones that we like experienced versus just ran to because we found out about it. And those ones were ones that we had planned in advance that we knew we wanted to go to, that were like on our top list of boys, that were on our like list of artists that we really wanted to like see with our own eyes. And so I would say pick a top 5 and maybe even a top 3, honestly, depending on how long you're there, and only focus on those appearances. And if you happen to run into one while you're walking through the mall, that's super awesome and fun.
And you do.
And you will, believe me, you will. And if you happen to have just like some free time and you're if you have some free time and you're just like scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through Instagram, and you see that somebody's having an appearance and it happens to be somewhere that you're like, oh, okay, we could go do something out, you know what I mean? Like, then yes, go to that by all means. But I would say like one thing that I wish we hadn't done was let ourselves get overstimulated with like the idea of just going to every single appearance that we could find.
Yeah. And I will say the easier ones to go to are the ones with like the smaller boys.
Yes.
Because you are going to have more of an interaction with them. You are going to see them closer up. So
the
Mile
fans
Appo,
that will get there will be there less early.
Yeah. Like you're going to get no type of any interaction.
You're not going to get close at all.
All these fan sites go when things first open. They put their stuff down, they write their name on a tag, and they put it on the floor, and then you're 10 rows back immediately.
I will say the fan sites that we interacted with were actually super nice. Like the golf fan sites actually let me go like stand with them so that I could get close when I was like walking around, because I was like, okay, because like at this point we were there, we were committed. And I was like, I want to, because golf was the first BL boy. So like war was my fell hardest, but golf was my fell first. Like I really, really got into the like actor side of BL because of golf. Like I remember I was on the plane home after like you first introduced me to BL and I literally on the plane am on Amazon like ordering like stuff that has golf on it, because there's like a gas station in America that's called Golf for like gas and oil, and I found this really cute hoodie, which I still have, by the way. It remains very cute, and I purchased it because it said golf on it, right? Like golf was my first like ride or die. Golf was part of the reason I discovered war, because like I loved love mechanics, but like missing baby. And I realized when I was watching Missing Baby for golf that I was like, okay, this other boy is actually very funny and cute.
Yeah, truly.
And so I really wanted to see golf up close because at that point, like we were there, we were
That's what
committed,
it
we were
is.
doing
Seeing these boys in person that you see on screen, you're like, can they be real?
Right.
What
like,
are they going to look like?
I wanted to see him. I was so curious about like how tall is he? How slender is he?
So
What is he
slim.
like in real life?
Yeah.
And so I was doing like a loop. Like I think you and Robbie were like kind of over at that point. Y'all were just sitting up top. And I was like, okay, before we go, like I need to at least try. I was like, I need to try my best. And so I did my loop. I rode up and down the escalator a few times because the escalator was like right by the side of the stage where he was sitting. And but at one point I was over by where the fan sites were standing and I was kind of trying to like, they could see me like trying to peek through them. And like, I think they could tell I just wanted to get a glimpse. Like I just wanted to see that I wasn't trying to stand there forever.
Right.
And they were really nice and they let me come stand by them. And like one of them like pulled me up in the front, like in front of them. And they were like, okay, like, look with your eyes for Farang. Like,
truly being a foreign fan in Thailand was a great experience because so many people are like, oh my gosh, you put all this effort into being here. Like we want to be nice to the foreign fans. And that's a great experience.
Yeah, I think, and it's all very organized. I think the only time I had like kind of like a weird experience with fans was actually at one of the Atlas ones. And so like that was the only time I got pushed was at Atlas. And that's like T-pop. I mean, Nice is a BL boy and you know.
Are you talking about the Intel thing?
Yes.
It's because the space was tiny.
Well, it wasn't even in the crowd. It was on
at
the end
because we were literally against a booth. And so like you couldn't go anywhere. And I think that was part of it because they had like stands set up.
This one little fanboy was pushing me and I was about to pop off on him. Like truly, aggressive. I was telling myself, I was like, first of all, you're an adult woman, be cool. I was like, you're an adult, please calm down, Ayla. And also I was like, listen, this is our last day. We were about to go to the airport.
Yeah, we were like 2 hours away from flying.
And I was like, I have seen them twice already. I have done this twice already. I have FaceTimed with Poom already. This is fine. Everything's fine. But I seriously, this little fanboy was pushing me and I almost like freaked out on him. I almost was like, I'm about to leave the country. But that's the only time I had a weird experience with fans, honestly, which is like so opposite to the States.
Yeah, and truly the experience of going to these appearances, if you go to just see your boy in person and you know that like you're not always going to have interactions with them. You're just among fans. It's the same thing as going to concerts and being in the nosebleed. Like you're going to have some kind of cool experience because you're interacting with people who love the same thing you do. And you're seeing
these people with your eyes
in person.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So I think with the appearances, I would say because I think you should experience them and not just be there for the sake of being there.
Yeah.
And having it be this like whirlwind where you don't really like remember pieces of it and it feels like you're just running around.
Also, these appearances last for 30 to 45 minutes. And if you're putting in a ton of effort, like hours to be there, like know that the letdown is going to be huge. Like
I wouldn't say I feel let down. I would just say like there are some that I
just wouldn't put
repeat
the amount of time in to like sit all day waiting for like 45 minutes of FaceTime.
No matter what, you're not going to be front row because of the nature of these appearances. We got there for the most part, except for that up thing, which again, that was like, listen, it's fine. That was the weirdest one we went to. He came down an escalator
and it was
singing
outside. It was like
in the open air part of the mall, and in Bangkok, that freaking sucks. Like because it's so humid and soupy there.
It's so hot.
Listen, we wanted to get the lucky fan draw. Like we were trying to do that situation, and they had a lot of fun like activations. So there was like a photo booth, and there was like an up to you wall with like these package thingies that you could hold. It was actually a very cool space, but big regrets.
There was
not necessarily regrets, just like we went about it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would say pick your top 3, and if you happen to run across something or it just like works out serendipitously, cool, but don't go chasing appearances because in the end it's not going to be worth it. For me, I feel like you will have a better time if you're only going to the ones that like mean something to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
especially the Count of Turbo appearances.
Those counted turbo
we
ones.
got so lucky because we went to 2 in one day.
Yes.
And one of them, most of these appearances are free.
Well, and we initially were just going to go to one, and then we went to the first one, and we were like, but wouldn't it be absurd if we went to the second one too? Because the first one, I literally timestamped it on my Instagram story, and the first one was at like 12:30, and the second one was at like 5:30. And I was,
it.
and we were leaving the first one. We were like, wouldn't it be absurd if we saw them again in 4 hours?
And yes, it was, but it was awesome. And what's interesting is I really wanted to go to Idol Exchange, but it was going to be on a day that we were flying out because they have, if you do want to plan your time around something, Idol Exchange happens every month, the 3rd of every month or the first weekend of every month. So you can actually go to that if you're in Thailand during that time.
Idol Exchange is very cool, actually.
Yeah. And so it's at MBK, our home away from home.
My home, I pay.
And so the Count of Turbo thing was going to be the day that we weren't supposed to be there, but our flight got delayed, and so we got to go to 2 Count of Turbo events. The first one was free. You had to like sign up because
you had to register.
It was like a Japan fair.
Yes, it was a Japanese job and education fair,
which was truly amazing.
Honestly, the best part about that actually is that no one questioned us when we walked up to that woman at the registration booth and like showed her our little line, like our little registration online. She did not question us even for 1 second. She was like, yes, these white people definitely live in Thailand and definitely are trying to get a job like in Japan from Thailand.
Truly, that's been the experience with everyone in Thailand. Either they're super excited to see us and they're like so excited that these foreigners have come to Thailand, or they just like don't care. They're like, cool, you're here, whatever, do the thing. So the first one was free. You did have to register. The second one was like 200 baht.
Right. So Idol Exchange, you do buy a ticket for, but
because it hosts these like precious little high school bands.
Oh my god, the high school band. Okay. So
which is BL related because
P's brother
yes.
was in the band. Okay, wait. Okay, let's talk about this Count of Turbo day because truly, again, y'all know we love Count of Turbo. Like we are like stupid for Count of Turbo. And so when we were like, okay, we're gonna see them up close in person, like of course we were going to. And both of them were concerts. So, like, we're not just seeing Count of Turbo, like, play a little game on stage.
No.
We're seeing Count of Turbo perform, like, peak Count of Turbo.
And we figured we'd get the Love Stage OST.
Okay, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. So, the first one, the wildest thing about it is, so, like, they had chairs.
Yeah.
And so, we're sitting in the chairs watching this man play Japanese drums. And then it's time for Count of Turbo. And this woman, okay, do you remember the woman in the kimono?
The
host in the kimono.
She saw white people and she was like,
we were sitting in the front row. So we managed to sneak our way to the front, whatever.
And we just straight up walked over to the front.
So we were in the second row at first and then somebody left.
Yeah.
And we were like, haha. And we like jumped into
because with some of these appearances, there are turnovers.
Right.
And so like once one person's done, sometimes people leave and you like go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this host woman, she's wearing a kimono. She like, clocks us immediately and thinks it's hilarious. Like truly, she is so amused.
The amount of people who are amused by us,
yeah,
which is truly a dream come true. Like
I
that,
know.
like in the States, I feel like people, the first thing is annoyance.
Yeah, or they like judge you a little bit.
Yeah, but everyone was so amused.
This is Thailand. Not like a judging amusement. This is like a look how sweet and cute amusement. Yes. Fully. Yes. And so she was obsessed with us, and we're both just sitting there watching this thing. And like, I think the looks on our faces, we were enthralled. Truly,
we were so excited to be there.
We were just excited to be there. And there's this whole thing is being done in Japanese and Thai. We don't speak either of those languages.
What are you talking about? I'm fluent in Thai.
Yeah, I'm fluent in Thai. I live in Bangkok now.
Yeah. I'm a local.
And this woman truly, and so like I think she was clocking us when we would like figure out what words they were saying. So we heard like naksadang, and we know that word, right? And we heard like playing, which we know that word, that's songs, right? And we would hear her say like Count of Turbo, and we'd be like, we know those. Like, we know that one. And I think she could see us getting, like, more and more excited for, like, every other word that we knew, right? And they would say, like, Sanook. And we'd be like, I know that one.
Sanuka.
And so, like, she was truly, truly amused. And so that was super fun. But then they come out and they make everyone stand up, and we're like, okay. And so we stand up, but we continue to just stand in the middle of the middle front of the stage, like right in front of the stage.
Because until you're asked to move, don't move.
Everyone else has moved. Everyone else has cleared out to either side of the room, but we're like, we're just going to stand here because no one has told us to not stand here.
They're putting like ropes on the side of the stage.
They put ropes on the side of the stage. They put barricades in the front.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, we're not in their way. We're just going to continue to stand here until somebody asks us to move, because sometimes it will, right? It's like at the Intel thing.
Yeah.
A boy told me to move in English, even. He used the English. Yeah. And sometimes, like, at the XOXO showcase, right? Like, they told us in Thai to move, but we, like, knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But at this thing, they didn't tell us to move, so we're like, we're just going to stand here. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so we ended up being front row center for this Count and Turbo appearance. And by the way, because of the nature of this appearance, and I think because of, like, the day it got announced, it was us and, like, maybe 8 other people.
That was so tiny.
And it was like the middle of a day on like a weird day. It was like, and it was like hidden in the back. It was like a whole thing. And so like, and no one else for some reason like got near the stage.
I know. I don't understand. But we were there.
Even
we
to
were
the
making
point where
eye contact.
Like a fan site was like shooting from behind us.
It made no sense.
We were, and I was like, there's no one standing behind me. Like, are you scared of me? Like, Farang is not contagious. I don't like, I'm so sorry.
We tested negative for COVID every day.
Oh my God, I took so many ATK tests, you guys. But I mean, it was outstanding. Count and Turbo were highly amused, but Turbo especially, Turbo clocked us. I mean, he walked out on stage, clocked us, and like, when I tell you his light grew like 10 times stronger.
Oh yeah, they were performing specifically for us because we were so into it. And
we were so into it.
Again, the nature, and we see this from the K-pop side, is that American and Western fans are just more enthusiastic and more lively. We hear it talked about with K-pop where they're like, oh my God, they're singing along and they're so loud.
And they're dancing.
And they're dancing and they're standing, because even at the showcase and even at the T-pop concerts, the fans are sitting.
Right.
And so like,
and you know what else experience. They do? The other thing they all do is this the whole time.
Yes.
With a phone in front of their faces. Yes. They're watching the concert through their phone. We do take pictures. Y'all have seen, we post it. Yeah. But like, that's my other piece of advice.
It's like 2 seconds of the performance. You take a picture, you take a photo, because there are plenty of other people taking photo and video. If you want to go back and watch the performance, there's somebody else who has done it.
But so that's my other piece of advice for going to these appearances is take a picture or two and then be done with it and experience it, because truly experiencing it. Like, I would say the Count and Turbo ones are some of my favorite because we really experienced it, and we love Count and Turbo so much.
They sang the Love Stage OST,
so at the Japanese one, they did Love Stage and So Good, which we knew Love Stage was coming because of course it's based off a Japanese manga, right? Like, makes perfect sense. And so then we're like, wouldn't it be absurd if we saw them again in 4 hours? And so we did.
Of course.
And we went to Idol Exchange.
We had nothing else to do because we hadn't planned
we
to be
weren't
there.
supposed to be there. So we
had to go back to MBK.
We went back home to MBK. And we found out, so we walk up and we're very confused about how Idol Exchange even works. Yeah, and a very nice ticket woman told us how to do it.
Yes. I was like, oh, I didn't know there were tickets, because it usually it's announced like if you have to register. Right. Like when Kauna's fan club posted these appearances, they put the registration link for the Japan one, but then they just put Idol Exchange. So we had no idea.
If you've never done Idol Exchange, you don't know you have to buy a ticket to Idol Exchange. You do have to buy a ticket to Idol Exchange. Super cheap.
So easy.
It's 200 baht per person, which is what, $6?
Maybe.
It's like $6 per person.
Depending on when you're there, the exchange
rate will fluctuate, but it's roughly $6 per person.
Worth it.
Worth every penny. So this story is hilarious, and then we'll move on to other tips and tricks for planning your BL situation in Thailand. So we get in there and we're walking around, we're just kind of looking, and we find the stage and we see all these booths and we're like, this is cute. And the theme of this month's Idol Exchange was like back to school, which is so cute.
Feels right.
And so this boy keeps walking past us, like running, because he's like doing things, not because he's like trying to walk past us. And we both look at each other at the same time and we go, that boy looks like Pete. Both of us at the same time say that. And we're like, oh my God, he does, right? And
he looks so familiar.
Looks so much like Pete that even you were like, that's not him, right? He wouldn't be wearing a high school uniform. Yes. And I was like, no, there's no way that's him, but you're right.
He looks like, is he filming something in high school?
Identical to Pete. Like identical to Pete.
Like,
so
same.
Yes. Why, like crazy identical to Pete. And
From Make It Right fame.
Yes, of Make It Right. And so whatever, then we kind of forget about it and it's fine because then we see Count Turbo at the side of the stage and we get distracted. Because they looked so cute, you
Y'all,
guys.
experiencing these boys IRL is something that you can never prepare yourself for.
And so we went to sit down because Count Turbo were about to come on. And also it was very cute. One of the girls was so right before Count Turbo performed, it was a group of 2 girls and a boy, and I forget their little group name, but I think they were like trainees of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the girls did Too Cute by Pixie, the one like
so cute.
dun, dun.
Yeah.
And Turbo was on the side of the stage and he was singing along and like doing the thing, and it was like the cutest thing I ever saw. But so we go and sit down and we pull the same thing where we like managed to hop up to the front row. No one was sitting there. So we were like, literally no one
You're
was
literally
sitting there.
5 feet from Count Turbo.
And we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And they'll probably be scared. They'll probably call whatever the equivalent of like the Thai Secret Service is. I don't know. But like, we're going to do it anyways because like, I don't know, we're in Thailand. We're not even supposed to be here. This is clearly a sign from God.
I mean, which is truly the most awkward experience making like,
I didn't think it was awkward. I thought it was outstanding.
Basically being performed at
by
your faves.
Yes.
Is overwhelming.
They performed directly to us. And when I tell you,
they performed directly to us.
So they did So Good first, which So Good is so cute. Always 10 out of 10. When Hundo P. Turbo walks out, clocks us for a second time, and is like, yes. He's like, my people are here. He's like, he truly, like, we were talking about Turbo in that moment was like, I could literally do nothing. And these women would like be completely obsessed with me. And he's right.
Yes.
So
Turbo
hilarious. And so then we think like, okay, they're going to play Love Stage, right? Like we just assumed because we had just seen them. So we were like, oh, we just flipped the order. We're going to do Love Stage next because that's the show we're in. And they had talked about Love Stage when they were introducing them.
Right.
So we were like, surely they're doing Love Stage.
But no.
And then I swear to God, I had a mental breakdown.
Counta gives this little speech. And at some point he says Tarn type.
I didn't hear him say Tarn type. I heard him say like, playing and Siri, which is like song and series.
Right.
And so that's why like my brain was like, okay, Love Stage. I didn't hear the word Tarn type. I believe you, he said Tarn type. I didn't hear that. I missed it. But so the music starts playing.
And we were like, hold on a second.
And it's the Tarn type OST.
Which the Counta Turbo version or the Counta version of that Tarn type OST is the superior version.
And also here's the thing. I think we can all agree that Tarn type is Tarn type. But
yes.
First of all, it's iconic. It's something that like you, and especially the OST, I feel like is burned into your brain as a BL fan.
I love that OST.
The OST is so good. Like, say what you will about the show, say what you will about Long Counta's character. The Counta version of the Tarn type OST is potentially the most iconic song in all of BL.
True.
And so when I heard that song start playing, I had like a full mental break. I start like physically like breaking down. My body starts physically breaking down.
And Counta immediately sees it.
And Counta
and he's like, oh, I'm performing this song for these girls and only these girls.
He looks directly. I mean, he sees me having this like physical breakdown. And he literally points at me and he lights up again. His light gets like 10 times stronger. Like when I tell you he lit up like a Christmas tree, it was wild. And he points directly at me and he's feeling himself after that, like fully feeling himself.
Which reminds me, during the So Good performance, I want to say it was the first one. There's a part of the choreography where they do this thumbs up situation and Turbo looks directly at us and like thumbs up. He's like, you girls.
And truly, and then like everyone else in the crowd starts singing and Counta's like, yes, sing more. And like the thing about it is like you can hear it, but you can also see the masks moving. And so I think like because everyone's wearing masks. And so when he saw our masks moving, because like he clocked us as white people, he was like, wait, they know the Thai words, right? Because that's something that always confuses people. We're like, no, we know Thai lyrics. He like truly, he was so like, no one has ever performed as hard as someone has performed like as Counta did when he sang that Tarn type OST. I had a full mental breakdown. It was wild. I will say those are two of that, like that those might be my 2 favorite appearances we went to. I think we went to because again, we got overstimulated. We went to way too many. We did way too much. I would say those because we just love them so much, and it truly was an experience. Like we really
Right.
experienced it. I would say Jungdunk was another highlight for me because again, we worked really hard to experience it.
Yeah.
They remembered us. They knew who
Yeah, that
we
was
were. It was very cool. They were so nice to us. They like chatted with us longer than they really chatted with anyone else, which was like kind of like fun. We ran into like a couple listeners at that who like talked to
Yeah.
us, wanted to take a picture with us.
Yeah, I will say that's the thing. Like, if you get face to face with any of these boys during like a switch up or like backstage moments, have what you're gonna say to them, because that if they stop and like smile at you,
talk to
you
them.
have a moment
Yeah.
to say like, "Hey, what's up? Like, I'm from America, or I'm from wherever. Like, I am a fan of yours." Like, if you want to say something to them, you have a chance to say something to them.
Yeah. But so I really love the Jungkook one. And even though it wasn't one we planned, it was one we ran across sort of last minute and we like ran over there because honestly, because we were meeting up with our friends sort of near there, was the My Only 12% appearance. That was really cool
That was
because what we did for that one wasn't the brand appearance itself. We did, they do the little fan meetings before.
we were trying to find the brand appearance, but we luckily stumbled onto
we
like their
literally
little
walked
fan meeting.
out like behind them.
I know. Ayla was like, "Can we walk out there?" I was like, "It's Thailand. Literally nobody cares. They're like so chill, and they'll like
So
their
we're walking there and
security,
we're
and
like,
they'll like
what?
shoo you towards wherever. But you can pretty much walk anywhere."
Yeah. We were like, what's going on out there? Those look like people. And we like peeked through the door because we were going somewhere else to try and find this appearance.
Yeah.
And it was them.
Yeah.
Because we saw Benz, who we've talked to before. So we generally the boys that you're like familiar with, you do clock a little faster, I will say.
Yeah.
And we just like walked out there and we walked up and sat down right in the front and
Like,
it was
right-
totally fine.
And that's the thing is like so many fans and fan sites stay pretty far back because they're taking photos and they like have had interactions. And so you as like not regular attenders can kind of get pretty close.
Yeah. And so even though we didn't like really interact with them, that was a really cool one to do because it was like a different type of experience. So that was that's a reason that was one of my other top ones. Also to see Kuhart in person was crazy.
Kuhart definitely saw us and was like, "Whoa, white people."
That's the reaction we got from most people was like like a what?
What? How? What?
Like there was like a double take that happened.
Because there's not a ton of like white fans. There's of course like all the Asias are so accessible and close to Thailand.
Right.
But like Western fans, we went to Wabi Sabi one night and there were two other white people and they were like, "White people."
They were like, "Do you speak English?"
And
we
weren't cool enough
but
to
we
be
weren't
hanging
cool
out
enough
with.
for them.
No.
I'm so sorry. It was our last day in Thailand.
I'm so tired.
Also, like that experience was weird because we didn't know we needed an ATK to get in, but luckily we had one because we'd been testing every day because we had podcast stuff. So we were like, "Oh, actually, I do have an ATK. Here you go." Like,
it was.
Anyways,
wild.
yeah. Okay, we'll need to move on. But like for the appearances, don't be like us. Don't
Pick
get
your
overstimulated. Pick your
Truly.
favorites. Stick with that. If you happen to run across something else, that's cool. But don't let yourself get caught up in the idea that like
I have to go to everything.
you have to go to everything.
You will never go to everything.
Yeah, you will never be able to. And so that leads into my next tip, which is learn how to use Twitter to find the appearances. You're mostly going to find it on Twitter.
Yes.
And you actually track down most of these. So I feel like you should talk about this.
Okay, so it's super easy. The first thing, you can use Instagram or Twitter because everybody has a fan club and every fan club posts their favorite schedule. So you just literally go through. If you want to search for it, go to Twitter and type in the person's name and then schedule. And literally every time they post for example, golf, I typed in golf Kanawat schedule and they hashtag all of it. And so it'll come up, it'll give you, sometimes it's in Thai, sometimes it's in English. Kauna Turbo, thankfully their fan club also translates it into English. And so it'll tell you the date, it'll tell you the time, it'll tell you the location, like what mall it's in, because it's always in a mall. But yeah, it's pretty easy to access.
I would say go ahead and pre-follow all of your faves fan clubs and maybe turn on notifications and then just turn them off when you leave Thailand.
And then of course
annoy
everybody knows that GMMTV posts all of their brand appearances daily. And a lot of companies, like the bigger companies like Dumundi,
Wabi Sabi
and GMMTV, PP and Bilkin do this too. They'll post at the beginning of every week. So for the most part, like the week ahead what those appearances,
who
like
they're
the
doing.
beer
Unless
boys
it's like
don't really do like a
unless it's
last minute.
minute,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes you'll get something where like, especially if they're swapped in. So
Yeah.
I would say like go ahead and turn on notifications, but for the follow the fan clubs, but also for the bigger companies, just follow the companies and turn on notifications. I guess it'd be hard to turn on GMMTV notifications, so maybe just go search for that post because like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But I would say I can't remember if Star Hunter does, because the few Star Hunter, we were very, very lucky to develop an awesome relationship with Star Hunter. You'll see more of that this season. And so we actually didn't go like hunting for Star Hunter appearances. So, but I will say the few that we
hung
did,
out at Hunter Village quite a bit.
True. My home, I pay. The few Star Hunter appearances we did know about that we didn't necessarily, or we tried to go to one, but then we like were too early, but we thought we had missed it, and so we left, but then it turns out we just were there too early, or like they had it was a whole, I don't know.
It was a different day, I think, is what happened.
No, because remember we went there on the right day, but we thought, we've like missed it, but we hadn't missed it. We were just there too early.
Oh, right.
Anyways, we actually found out about from the fan clubs.
Yeah.
Not from Star. So I'm actually not positive if Star Hunter posts, but definitely Wabi Sabi does, GMMTV does, Domundi does, Beyond Cloud does.
Yeah.
Am I missing any?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But just follow the fan clubs, follow the companies. They post all the time.
Yeah.
There's
and
so many things.
Again, prioritize your top faves. Don't go to everything just because something pops up on your phone. So, speaking of going to things, the number one piece of advice on my list is know where you want to go in advance in terms of locations, right? So, like, we really wanted to go to Last House on the Right. We really wanted to go to, like,
so stinking cool.
We have, like, a bunch of just, like, BL-related places we wanted to go. And you all know them, right? Like, Cafe Wob and Friends, right? Like, all of those things that, like, we all want to go to, right? The GMMTV building to go shopping, right? Like, all of that kind of stuff. My advice to you, make a list of all the BL related places you want to go, including like the filming locations, right? So like the Vice Versa Park is a really popular one right now that everybody's wanting to go to. The Kin Porsche Bar. There's also a Kin Porsche Cafe from the Date episode called Portofino. So any of those places that you want to go, right? Like the cafes that you see, the cafes that boys own, the shops that boys own, make a list of everything that you want to go to. And then, which we did, we were like, okay, like we made a whole list of all the BL things we want to do. The crucial piece that we missed, my number one piece of advice, plot them on a map.
Yeah.
And then plan your days around where everything is clustered, because Bangkok is so much bigger than you think it is. It is so spread out. And so if you don't look at a map and like physically see where the stuff you want to go to is near each other, you're gonna miss stuff. Like there are a few things we didn't get to go to because we ran out of time because we weren't smart about our like travel around Bangkok.
Yeah, and we ended up spending more time at certain places. So like the day that we went to GMMTV, I was like, we should go to AWC as well, but it ended up raining that day, and we like didn't get to like do some of the things that we wanted to do because of the weather. Right. And so that's what I had done. Anytime I found a location, I put it on Google Maps, and like you can save it under a title. So like I just put Bangkok and then like plotted everything so that when we did decide to go to whatever thing, pulling it up on a map is vital, because like, for example, AWC is near GMMTV as well as Wob Cafe. So they're kind of all in that central location.
Just know you cannot walk everywhere in Bangkok.
No,
that's another mistake that we as the Farangs made multiple times. You'd think we'd learn our lesson. We did not.
You can walk from mall to mall. That is super easy.
Walking, well, only within the Siam complex.
From Central World to MBK, you can walk. Yes.
But everywhere else you cannot walk from place to place. 100 piece. So what I would say is in advance, right? Don't just say like look at the map beforehand, right? Plot every single place you want to go on a map. Look at it maybe like the day you're traveling out or like a couple days before, whatever. And then plan your days around what is in that area. And maybe you find out an appearance maybe there's like an Om Nanon appearance that pops up and you decide to go. decide to make that day everything that's around that Om Nanon appearance, and just go to all of those things, and then plan your route in advance, because otherwise you'll miss things. You just won't get to go to stuff because Bangkok is so much more spread out than you think it is. Like, you can see it on a map, but it's really because of the way that travel around the city works in Bangkok.
You get nowhere fast.
It is, nothing is easily accessible.
Maybe rent a tuk-tuk for a day. That's what we should have done. I wonder if you can do that. Can you just?
Well, you can in Ayutthaya.
Yes. Can you? If you can rent a tuk-tuk for a day, that's the way to go. Because if you want to go to, say, for example, where Work Point is, like up towards the like Bangkok University area,
which is so far out, you'll need to take a van up there and then take a tuk-tuk around.
Yeah, it's so far, but there's a lot of stuff like within that area, but like, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles apart from each other, you could like tuk-tuk to all the places.
Yeah, but so I would say plan your route, plan your days based on that map, and then plan your route in advance, and just know you're going to need to make sure that you're working your way in a circle to get back to your hotel or your Airbnb, wherever you're staying, because you need to figure out and plan your time accordingly based on what you can get to from the BTS station. So in Bangkok, there are two public transport systems that foreigners can and should use. I actually don't recommend trying to do the buses.
Yeah, just use the trains.
Just use the trains, which are the BTS and the MTR. The MTR is underground. The BTS is above ground. You need 2 separate cards for this. We'll get into that later on another episode. But plan your route around what is off of stations, and know that you're going to have to transfer between lines, and where you're going to need a car or a tuk-tuk. Figure out if it's a place that tuk-tuks actually are. Understand that if you're going to wait for a car, Bolt and Grab don't work the way Uber and Lyft do in America. They do in a sense that, like, you book it on the app, you know how much it's going to be, but it will tell you your car is 5 minutes away. Just know that's a lie.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes away.
Maybe. Or sometimes it's actually 3 minutes away. Just understand that 5-minute thing is a lie. Usually it's at least triple that away. Yeah, so know that if you're waiting for a car, like, build that into your time. Like, when you're going to need to wait for a car, all of that kind of thing. Also, if you know around what time you're going to be heading back to your hotel, if it's anywhere between, I would say, like 4:30 and 6:30, make sure your last stop is on a train and not in a car, because otherwise you will be sitting in a car for 2 hours. Bangkok rush hour traffic is no joke. I know we all see it on the stories, but they're not exaggerating. It's worse than California. It's worse than Houston. It's worse than any American city I have ever been in.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
I would say prioritizing exactly what you want to do is the key, because, for example, we really wanted to go see Last House on the Right, and we did. And that was the first thing we did for the day, which was awesome. And then we got to hit up Icon Siam
accidentally.
Yeah, and Wat Arun. Like, we truly got to do things that we really wanted to do when we started where we wanted to start. And so if you end up being like, I'm going to go do this thing, and then maybe I'll get to go do this thing, like, go to the thing you really want to do first. Because that was what I think we got caught in the first week. We were like, we want to go experience the appearances and go experience
we did too much, right? Like, stuff would pop up and be like, we should go to this. We have to go to this because we're in Thailand, you know, I would have across the world, right? And
honestly, I would have a loose daily itinerary, because I think that's the hardest part too, is that you can't just walk around and do things. Because it is so spread out. Like, you really need to know where you're going and what you want to do, where you want to eat, what you want to experience.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can't just wander. Having an itinerary with exactly the things you want to hit up. Sure, there are certain days that you're like, I just want to go walk around Siam Paragon, and you can totally do that.
And if you want to do a mall day, that's actually perfectly valid, because there's so much to experience there. There's so much to shop, right? Like, even BL related, right? Like, there's so much. And so later this month, we do have a mall episode coming out, because again, we spent so much time in the mall. Shout out MBK, my home away from home. Yeah, I think it's so easy to get overstimulated. Just know that Bangkok is far more spread out than any other American city I've ever experienced.
The malls alone are confusing.
Yeah.
Closed.
I would say, just like, the number one, not even mistake, because it was fine. It worked out for us. Like, I actually don't really regret any of it.
No. Listen,
don't
you
let
live and you
yourself
learn.
don't let yourself get overstimulated. I feel like you will get more out of the experience
Yeah.
if you're truly experiencing things, not just like trying to go to 110 miles an hour.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't know what you don't know. This was our first time in Bangkok,
Yeah.
our first time in Thailand. We were going for the podcast. So we kind of had that mentality of like, we're not here for vacation. This was absolutely for the podcast and for BL related stuff. So we kind of went in with that mentality of like, we're not going to be sitting by a pool all day, which would have been nice, but we're not
Right.
going to do that. So I was okay with like going from appearance to appearance at first. And then when we finally got into the second week and we were like, okay, we need to slow down. We need to pace ourselves. Like we know what we really want to do and what we really want to see. And I think that's when we kind of got into the groove of like where we should be at what time and what we wanted to do.
I would say I'm not like a sit by the pool kind of person anyways. Like when I go on Vegas, like I like to go on trips. I like to have experiences and I can sit by a pool in Houston. I have zero interest in sitting by a pool if I've traveled 23 hours across the earth.
Yeah.
But it was more about like I like to experience things and I like to have those memories and like really be able to like recall it. And I feel like when you're doing so much, it makes it the recall is harder, right? It's harder to actually build those memories. And like that's what I always want for myself from trips is to like have the memories.
Yeah.
And so
again, prioritize what you absolutely want to do, who you absolutely want to say.
And if your type of vacation is sitting by a pool and you're like, I want to be in Bangkok by a pool and that's like my vibe.
There's so many places to do that.
Do the kind of vacation that you want. For me, my vacation is going out and doing things. Like if I'm going across the planet, I want to like experience the stuff across the planet.
But again, that's the thing is like you can have a vacation and do the things the BL things are doing, right? Like everyone's talking about this Kin Porch Hotel. So if you want to go to that hotel,
which I believe it's reopened now. It was closed. Yeah, I think it's reopened now. Oh, October.
So if you want to go lay in that pool, don't know why you would want to do that. Or if you want to go to that Iron Balls bar, if you want to go do those things, like there's so many like fun locations you can go to, and like you can have the BL experience without actually like going to the appearances.
You
can
have the whatever BL experience it is that you want to have. For some people, it's going to experiences and seeing these actors with your eyes and experiencing like the fan culture of it all, which is so interesting to us, I think. And so that's why it was such a good trip for us, is even though we did get overstimulated and we did too much, that was exactly the right kind of vacation for us. If you are more of a person where like you want to go to the vice versa park and you want to go to the Kin Porch bar and you want to go to the Kin Porch pool, do that, right? You can have whatever kind of BL experience it is that you want, because there's so many BL experiences to be had in Thailand. Going to GMMTV is very cool and fun. I do recommend it. Just know, I think so we'll talk. I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit more in another episode, but just know, because I found out that there's like a little bit of confusion about what exactly GMMTV is for fans. Yeah. Here's what you should know. There's not a gift shop. It's not a gift store in the sense that we think of gift shops in the West. Right. It literally, you get a visitor's pass. You can go up to where the GMMTV office is, because the GMMTV building is essentially just executive suites. It's a big old office building that's filled with a bunch of businesses, not just GMMTV. Right. And so you get to go up to the 30th floor. You get a visitor's pass. You go up to the 30th floor. And then there's basically like... It's a display. Like a display. Yeah. There's a display of all of the merch that they have. And you tell the little security guard, I want this, this, and this. He tells you if it's in stock. If it is in stock, you pay for it. He goes to the back and gets the stuff and brings it back to the front. Well, no,
actually, that security guard doesn't do that. There's like a window that you go to. He determines whether or not you actually want to buy the merch, or you're just like creeping on the like people in the office.
The boys.
Because the door to GMMTV offices is like right beside the
purchasing window.
And
it's glass.
And so what's funny is that like you could linger there if you wanted to, but I think he shoos them away pretty consistently. Gotcha. And so you're like, I want to purchase these things, and he's like, okay, go to the window. And then the girl like tells you what you can and cannot buy, and then that's pretty much it. But there's nothing to like. There is like the little smoothie place that we've seen in videos near the bathrooms that like have birthday events. There's a Starbucks that like while we were there first,
it was first birthday.
They were having events. There was like booths set up promotions for like products that they were doing. But yeah, there's not much to
There's
GMMTV.
not much to it. So I would say don't plan your whole day around it. There are some people that like hang out in, there's like, so underground, there's like some restaurants.
Yeah. It's almost like a food court a little bit.
Yeah. You can hang out down there and we'll probably see a boy or two. But I would say, like, honestly, I would say if you have other things and places that you want to go and see in Bangkok, it's actually probably not worth it, because you could just go to a GMMTV appearance and then you're 100p guaranteed to see a boy.
Right.
We had a different experience at GMMTV. This is already announced. It came out as of the day that we're filming this today.
Yeah.
We actually got to interview people inside GMMTV. So we were invited like inside the GMMTV offices. And so I will say it was like kind of a bizarre experience, because we like, when we went in, there were no fans up there buying merch. So like we were like collected. Like they came and collected us. We did have to turn in our passports and get our little visitors badges and all that. We went up, and then they had already like told the guy that was coming to collect us that we were coming up the elevator. So like we got off the elevator and he was there pretty much, and he like collected us and took us inside.
Because you have to scan to get into the offices and scan to get out.
Even to go to the bathroom. Like he had to scan us out to go to the bathroom a couple times. And so like he collected, and there were no fans waiting there. But when we were leaving, after we had interviewed the people we interviewed, which 2 of those people were Kowtoung and First, this is what's announced. There's another interview that has not yet been announced that I'm so excited for people to know, but we're keeping it a secret right now. But Kowtoung and First were the second people we interviewed. So when we were done with Kowtoung and First, we left. Yeah. And there were it was the weirdest experience, because there were fans there. And now that you say this about the whole purchasing thing, it makes sense, because there were fans like right inside when we were being scanned out, like kind of like freaking out and like taking pictures through the door. And it was because Kowtoung and First had come out of our interview and were like going to a side room to get ready for something else.
Because they go to a different floor, because they had told us that Kowtoung and First were getting ready on another floor. Right. And so there is another floor to GMMTV. So they do have to like enter and exit through that main door. And so Kowtoung and First had come out to like say hello to fans and to like.
Yeah, and so when we were leaving, there were like fans like freaking. It was just a wild. I mean, the whole thing was wild. Being invited inside GMMTV was wild.
We didn't see anything because the room that we were in had glass that was coated,
frosted,
and so anywhere that you would be able to see someone's face was covered. And so we were looking at people's feet, being like, "Aren't they?"
We were looking at shoes, and we were like, is that a boy's shoes? Is that a boy's shoes? We were joking that we were going to like lay on the floor and like look down the thing. We didn't do that. We were very professional. Don't worry.
Super professional. But I did go to the bathroom a ridiculous amount of times.
I also was just nervous. So I went to the bathroom multiple times. So I was like nervous and I really had to like pee. I was like, I don't know. I was getting nervous. We were in the conference room. They had like set us up in like the conference room. Yeah,
the whole experience was wild.
Was a crazy, but I will say, if you're going as a fan, which like we did do, or y'all did the fan experience part, at that point my brain was so broken that I was like, I just need to sit down here. Please let me try to exist. There's not a lot to it as a fan, I will say. And I think there's a misconception of like, oh, let's go to the gift store. It's not really a gift store.
However, I would recommend going to Star Hunter Studios, because the restaurant that they film all of like the stuff at is in that complex.
But you can't actually go to Star Hunter Studios, because
you can go to the restaurant.
You can go to the restaurant, because the office itself is kind of tucked away and it's super private. Like they legitimately work out of it. There's nothing else you can do there. It's just an office. And so
there's a fun little sign that you can take.
Yeah, there's a cute little sign out front. But yeah, if you go to Star Hunter, go to the restaurants where they film Gen Y. Yep. The restaurant's delicious. The food is really good. It's a really good restaurant.
It's called Zab something or other.
Something Zab something. Because we were like, oh, what Zab, man? And they were like, Zab means spicy, is the whole thing. Yeah. Also recommend going to Hunter Village. It's super fun. Like,
there's always people lingering around.
You guys will see next week. We filmed in Hunter Village with Element. And I think everyone already knows we were there because we met Copter and they were so cool to meet.
Wild.
But Hunter Village is really fun to see and experience because they have stuff going on there every day. Yeah. And there's like a big window into the studio. So you can like see the stuff. It's a dance studio. Apparently there's a cafe in there that we never actually went to.
Yeah, it's labeled, but I don't think there is.
I didn't see it because when we walked in for Element to get ready to interview Element, Kim and Copter were getting ready where I'm pretty sure the cafe was supposed to be. And then the Element boys were getting ready on the other side of that reception desk.
Yeah, so I have no idea where the cafe would be.
I don't know where the cafe is.
But yeah, you can go take dance classes at Hunter Village.
Yeah, which might be fun.
Sign
honestly.
up online. They will message you literally daily, and you'll know what's going on.
Like Hunter Village is really cool to like see because it's very like it's so Star Hunter. It's so iconic. There's like a little screen.
Open, yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah. So, but GMMTV, I would say like go do the thing, see the ads, buy your merch, but just know like it's not.
It's an office building.
Yeah. It's not a gift store in the way that you think of a gift store. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other like buildings that are BL related that you'd want to go to other than like, of course, like any locations, the malls,
all of the cafes, all the boys' cafes, all of the boys' stores, any of the shops. But again, like you'll know what you want to do. So like, for example, like we knew there were some things we wanted to buy Painkiller and we wanted to buy like there was like a specific jewelry brand and there's just like there was stuff that we wanted to go buy and shop for that our boys bought and shop for. And so like we looked up where those things were and we
it took us forever. Okay, so these bracelets I have wanted for a good year because Prom had worn them in something and I saved the brand and I was gonna order them offline and then I was like, no, it doesn't make sense, like the shipping is ridiculous, so like I waited. So then when we were going to Thailand, I was like, I want to go to this is like the main thing I want to buy, the main thing I want to do. And if you go to their Instagram page, Prom has them, War has them, Om Nanon have them, like a bunch of K-pop people have them,
Lisa, Bam Bam.
Yeah, and so I was like, we need to find this store. So on their Instagram, they have like where they are and what it's labeled, which is wrong on the Instagram page. So we had to go to the mall directory to find exactly where it was.
And then it turns out we had walked past it like 4 times.
The mall directories make no sense.
Well, absolutely specifically it's in Central World.
Yes.
Central World is very confusing to walk around in.
Because Central World has like, it's like a huge loop, but then there are also like little hallways.
And there are different parts in Central. So there's like Central Plaza and Central 1 and Central. Yeah, there's a lot.
So yes, we finally found the jewelry store.
We did.
It was worth it. I got my bracelet.
Yes.
Ravipa is the name of the jewelry.
Yes.
Highly recommend. They're really cute.
It was really fun. They're really cute.
But yeah, there's tons of like shops.
The Painkiller woman was very amused by us because honestly, anytime we would shop for something that we had found because of a boy.
This is another suggestion I would make. Is to, if you see a piece of clothing that you really want that a boy is wearing, bookmark it, because what would happen is that we would see a piece of clothing and be like, I know a boy has worn that. Who has worn that? And then we'd sit on Instagram for a good 5 to 10 minutes in these stores, which is what we did at Painkiller. And the woman was like, I see what's happening here.
Yeah. Well, and this happened to us anytime we were shopping for something that like a boy had worn or whatever. And they would see on our phones, like honestly, for these bracelets, we like fully pulled up War wearing them and we were like, this.
And the woman was like, oh, this is the one that Om has.
Oh, yeah. And she even said Om and she was like, Lisa from Black. Like she understood what we were there for. But the Painkiller woman.
This is how your boys get brand deals.
Yes. And the Painkiller woman was particularly amused by us because like we were truly going back and forth over which shirts to buy because Painkiller is not a cheap brand, even in Thailand.
Right.
And
there's so much stuff you can get.
There's so much. And these boys have worn every piece of Painkiller. And so you have to decide. And I was going back and forth specifically between 2 different shirts. And like, because I wanted the one that said Bangkok on it because obviously, but then there was one piece that it was on sale too. I should have just bought both. That actually, I take it back. I do have a regret. My regret is not just buying both Painkiller shirts.
Truly.
But I was like trying to be economical.
I mean, we bought a lot of Alien stuff, so there's that.
But this was before I even went to Alien.
True.
And so the piece that they had that was on sale was the very first piece of Painkiller merch that I looked at and I thought, I want that because this boy is wearing it. And I knew exactly who had worn it. And I ended up buying the Bangkok one because duh. But Yeah, that's my only regret is not. But this woman was like watching us, like showing each other, being like, no, Nat
She
wore
just
this
kept
one.
giggling.
Wore this one. She thought it was hilarious. And
was
anytime
awesome.
we were shopping for stuff that like boys had used or worn, and we'd pull up the pictures and we'd show each other and be like, no, I think it's this one. No, I think
Yeah.
it's that one. They were so amused by this.
I love it. And also, like, I mean, that's how these boys get these brand deals and how it just encourages it. Because, like, imagine if, like, they go back to whoever and they're like, these girls came out of town.
These Western fans were
And,
speaking
like,
English and just showing me pictures of War Wannerite.
Truly.
Like-
Yeah. So, and that's the cool thing, too, is like you can wear and buy not only the things that like BL boys have worn, but also the things that they're selling. So, like, AWC has stuff and Guns.
Yeah, Last House on the
Stuff
Right. I
has-
bought
yeah.
stuff from Last House on the Right.
I do regret not finding the company where Louis' PJs are.
Yes. But A-Land was funny too, because we would just walk around and we'd be like, well, Kauna wears this. Well, I'm buying this because Turbo wore this one.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, oh, well, those are the pants that so and so like Jung wore.
Yeah.
And we're just walking around like talking about like, well, do I want this? Because like, Kauna was wearing these when we saw him the other
Right.
day. And like blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
and
that's
like
pretty funny.
the people there, this poor boy, the second time we went, was like trying to like, he was like, what are you
He was like, there's a sale going
he
on.
definitely
We're
thought
like,
we were
okay.
crazy. He was like, you get a certain percentage off if you buy this much. And we looked at the stuff already in our hands and we were like, yeah, we're going to hit that. Like, we were like, we're obviously here to purchase things regardless of whether or not it's on sale.
We had gone to A-Land in the first place to buy
The Kauna shirt.
The Kauna shirt. But then I also remembered that there was a You're My Sky appearance and they had worn this brand called Romantic Garden Club.
Yeah.
And I really wanted this stuff.
But
and
I think it's called Romantic Crew is the brand, but like the line they wore was the
Right.
Garden Club stuff.
And the A-Land in the States doesn't have it.
Right.
There is an A-Land in New York City, but it doesn't have it. And you can like buy that kind of stuff online.
And we had been like looking at it. So the first time we went, we looked at it and we were
Right.
like, I'm not going to buy it. Like because at this point we had like, I mean, listen, you guys know Jude My Katong Pa had created just like our own experiences with You're My Sky and that cast and everything.
Yeah.
And with like, Sia, we had like, it was,
the whole thing.
But like by the second time, so we went back for a second time because I was like, I think I really want the Turbo shirt, like the Turbo complement to the Kauna shirt you bought.
Yes.
I
And
was
it
like-
glows in the dark, which is the coolest thing ever.
I was like, yeah, I think I want it.
I'm
Let's
so
go back so I can buy this shirt. And it
Yeah.
says BKK edition, like Bangkok edition,
So
which is so cool. So I was like, I think I want it. Let's go back. And by the time we went back for the Turbo shirt, we ended up buying the You're My Sky stuff.
I mean, it makes sense. Feels right.
Yeah.
So, and also speaking of, just go hang out at Siam Paragon. Just go hang out in the food court,
malls.
at the Starbucks. You'll run into boys.
You will see boys.
Truly.
Yeah. So we ran into 3 boys at Siam Paragon. We ran into another boy at Siam Square 1.
Mm-hmm. We saw Obe at
Siam Square
which
1.
was so cool.
And then we saw Mark at Siam Square 1.
Yep.
And then we saw 3 different boys at Siam Paragon Food Court.
Yes.
And then
And again, when you see these boys, like sometimes you'll say hi and wave. Sometimes like you just pass them and you're like, cool, that was a boy.
yeah,
For the most part, we didn't interact with any of them.
No, I would have said hi to Obe, but by the time I was like, that was really Obe, and he like wasn't wearing a mask.
He walked by really quickly.
But he walked by really fast.
We would have.
I absolutely would have talked to Obe
because we know he speaks fluent English. I think.
I don't know. I just really like Obe, and I would have talked to him. I would have been like, "Somebody my car."
Yeah, 100%. Mark was a funny one. Mark from GMMTV, who was
Mark with a C.
Yes, who was in Bad Buddy. He like kept. It was at the Atlas showcase or the XOXO showcase, and he had been recognized once. And I was like, I feel like that boy is somebody.
It's a BL boy.
He had a mask on.
Yeah.
And then he was standing by the backstage, and I was just standing by myself because Ayla had gone to look for something else. And I was like,
I had gone to look for Atlas.
I was like, I think I know this boy. And he took his mask on because they took his mask off because they took a group photo. And I was like, oh, it's that boy. And Mark looks very similar to another BL boy that I always get them kind of mixed up. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to drive me crazy. And then finally Ayla had seen his face and I was like, you know who this is? We just couldn't place it. But he kept looking at me and like kept,
it was the
kind of
wrong of it all.
Kept making eye contact. And it's one of those things where it's like, I wonder if he was like, are you here because of the BL of it all? And like, you know who I am? Like,
I think
or
that's
if
just
it's
like paranoia,
he
though,
was like
because
probably just like foreigner in the
Right.
States, and I kept looking at him, so of course he kept looking at me, and so
and because we were at the XOXO showcase at that
Yeah.
point, so
there was a lot going on.
yeah,
So
and
yeah, you'll
we
see
weren't
people.
just like, what's interesting is we had just as much reason to be at the side stage as he did, because
Yeah.
we weren't just lurking by the side stage. Fun story, we got our makeup done by Atlas and 4Eve's makeup artist for this merch photo shoot that everyone knows about, that we like originally were going to keep secret, and then that didn't work.
Thanks, Tong.
Thanks everyone at Your My Sky. You
Really?
all fail.
Yeah.
But so we were actually over there because he was doing 4Eve's makeup for the showcase, and we were talking to him.
Yeah.
So you actually had just as much reason to be over there as Mark did.
Truly,
so you weren't
truly.
just lurking.
No. Well, and also you can stand by these
You can stand
barricades
wherever you
because
want.
that's where you're going to get the interaction with these people in the backstage.
Yeah. Although we, in that particular case, we didn't get any interaction besides just like watching Nice be really sparkly for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fan sites like had moved backstage to like take the photos, and then they cleared out once they went.
Nice
up on
of
stage.
Make It Right fame.
Yes. The other thing I want to highlight that's like BL boy related that you can also do an experience is the gun smile tattoos that we got.
Yes.
It was truly the coolest experience.
I have never been this cool before. I used to joke a lot that I peaked in high school because I was a really cool teenager. Like, I won't go into why, but I was like really cool. You guys don't even know. Nah, I peaked in Gun Smile's tattoo shop, Hundo P.
Truly, it was the coolest experience. So all you have to do is line. You have to make an appointment. Take a Tat is the name of the Instagram.
It is a very private tattoo studio, so you absolutely cannot just show up. Don't think it works like tattoos in the West. You can't show up and even like get a tattoo from another artist just to be there. Like, you can't walk in.
I feel like so many people who get tattoos regularly have an artist that they like make appointments with.
But generally, the shop you can just walk into.
Right. But also because we wanted Gun Smile, like you're going for the tattoo artist. And so like you when you message the tattoo place, because it is 2 tattoo artists, I think, you say you want Gun Smile and you tell them what you want. And that's when they kind of can schedule you into the thing. And it's the coolest space.
It's the coolest thing that's
like
ever happened to me.
It's in like an apartment complex, but it is like it fully feels just like a flat, like a studio. And there was like music playing.
He had the coolest playlist on, you guys.
And immediately, like within 2 minutes, we were like, "We're fans. We love you." And
I walked in and I was like, "I love you."
And then there was there was a girl there that like had more English because Gun Smile doesn't have a ton of English, and so like he was like, I think to make him comfortable and to make us comfortable, he was like, I need someone here with some more English.
Yeah.
But it was nice because like towards the end, he kind of like warmed up.
He
and,
warmed
like,
up. He was a little more comfortable.
He noticed that like we were just like so excited to be there, and was like, he was very personable, and he like is the nicest.
Yeah, I'll tell my tattoo story at some point on the podcast, but like, you were gone during most of my tattoo because you had left to like find water or something.
I needed to eat. I was starving.
Okay, yeah. So like you hadn't eaten, and so it was like you were gone for most of my tattoo, which actually was a very interesting experience because things started to go wrong. And I'll tell this story at some point on the podcast.
I mean, just tell it now. I feel like this is the appropriate time. Do we have enough time?
Oh, we don't have enough time. The time is not now. But I will say it was a really interesting experience. And what you should know from it is he is the sweetest guy. Like, I'll tell the full story.
He's a professional tattoo artist.
He's a professional. Does a very good job. He's very professional. He cares very much about what he does. But he is just like the sweetest man, truly.
And it was funny because when he was setting up for my tattoo, Ayla went first and then I went, and because we got it on different parts of our body, like he had to set up differently for mine. And I was looking over, and I get a little nervous and anxious just because like the needle of it all. And he kept looking over at me, and I would look over at him, and he would just smile. And like, it was such a funny, like, because we were just so excited to be there. And like,
and it was so cool. I've never felt so cool in my whole life.
It was a pretty awesome experience. So if you're into tattoos, he does minimalistic handwriting, and highly recommend
10 out of 10
Jude Micah Tongfa.
And also because my tattoo is very, very visible, because of where I got it done, so many people after I got it done noticed it and were like super excited.
Or
At
like,
one
do you
point,
know what it means?
at one point, I think it was First was like,
Yeah.
do you know that your tattoo is in Thai? And I was like, yes, First, I do know that.
That's similar to was it Dunk being like, you're in Thailand?
Yeah. Dunk was like, you're in Thailand. And we were like,
Like,
yeah.
we
Yeah, first saw my tattoo and he was like, did you know your tattoo is Thai? And I was like, yeah. And then we actually, that was a cool moment because I got to tell them, because like you had said Gunsmile did them, but I don't think they processed that when you said
Right, because
it.
it doesn't make sense. They're like, why are people from in Thailand? Wait, Gunsmile? What?
Well, and we, even because we get excited, we talk pretty quickly,
Yeah.
which is difficult for, especially if English is your second language.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until First started asking me about the tattoo, and also because the way we were sitting when we interviewed First in Cowtongue, I talk with my hands a lot. And so like First angle to where I was sitting, like he could see the inside of my
Yeah.
wrist pretty visibly. So mine was just more visible to him is all. And he, at the end, we were talking about it and he was like, do you know what it means? And I was like, yeah, Jude Mai Kutong Ba. And he was like, he was very shocked that I could like say it. And he was like, do you know what that means in Thai? And I was like, the destination is the sky. And he's very impressed that I knew that. And then I was like, yeah, do you know Gunsmile, the actor? And again, you had already said Gunsmile did them, but they were just like, like they didn't really like process it. First in Cowtongue didn't. And they were like, oh, be Gunsmile. And also because of like our accents, right? Like they don't pronounce Gunsmile the way we pronounce Gunsmile.
Right.
And I was like, the actor at GMMTV, and they were like, oh, yeah. Like it took a little bit of explaining of like, okay, Gunsmile. And I was like, he did this.
Yeah.
The look on their faces, even they thought we were cool in that moment.
We are cool.
It was like, it's so cool that even First in Cowtongue thought it was really cool.
Okay, so let's wrap this episode up. Were there any other tips and tricks on your list?
I think that was my whole list, is like, so know where you want to go, plot out on a map, plan your days that way, figure out your route based on the BTS, the MTR, know you're going to need to make a circle, understand you need extra time if you need a car. Anywhere. Have a backup plan if just in case it rains. So that's what happened to us the day we went to Last House on the Right. That's why we ended up at Icon Siam, is because we were supposed to go to Wat Arun right after, and then it was raining, and you can't walk around an outdoor temple when it's raining. So we went to Icon Siam to wait out the rain. But because Icon Siam was close-ish, it was like towards where we were going, towards Wat Arun from Last House on the Right. We were like, okay, let's hit up Icon Siam. So that's what I mean by like, have a backup plan, have like alternates that you can go to just in case it starts raining. Because even if you have an umbrella or a poncho, trust me when I tell you, don't want to walk around in the rain in Bangkok. No. Pick a top 5, focus on those. Don't get overstimulated and try to go to too many appearances. No. Learn how to use Twitter and Instagram to find said appearances.
Truly, it is what you make it. There are so many things. There's endless amounts of concerts and content and just boys everywhere.
There are boys everywhere. Truly endless boys.
Truly, you can go and see and do. You will not be disappointed.
I just realized we never finished the whole high school band story. So let's finish that real quick, and then this will have been Let's Talk BL. Makes so much sense. We're at Idol Exchange, trying to watch Count and Turbo. Count and Turbo happen. I have a physical breakdown over the Tarn Type OST. Yes. It was perfect. And then
these high school boys get on
stage. We're like, where should we go? And this little high school band gets on stage. and it's the boy that has been running past us the whole time that we're like, he looks exactly like Peak. And so this high school band kills it. They have so many fans. Like, girls are screaming and jumping up and down.
A group of boys on one side and a group of girls on the other. Like,
it was very cute. High school. And all of the girls were on the side of the boy that looked like Peak. Truly, he looked so much like Peak that we were like, is that Peak just like cosplaying as a high schooler? Like, he looked so much like Peak. And so this high school band is killing it the whole time. Good. And I was like enthralled by this. I was like enchanted.
There's actually a lot of outdoor music in Bangkok because Siam Square, these like high schoolers in their high school uniforms always are just set up playing music.
They do it in Chinatown too, and over at the Cultural Center. It's everywhere. Very fascinating. Awesome. But we're like, so I'm fascinated by this high school band at this point because they have so many fans. So I pull up the band, and the band is so cute. They have like 800 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, they're adorable. I think it's Rainy Day. Hold on, let me double check. I think it's called Rainy Day.
So she's looking up the band,
and I look
like
up the band, and yes. and they have all the members listed. And let's see, is it rainy day?
You could just go to Idol Exchange. Idol Exchange also has an Instagram account, so you can look at the lineup because Idol Exchange has like a huge lineup for like 2 whole days, and you can find them.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Oh, but they didn't tag anybody. Idol Exchange.
I mean,
Get
but
it
they're still
together.
listed. It's the first day. Go back to the Counter Turbo one.
Rainy Room. So the band is Rainy Room. They killed it. They have not been around for very long. Oh, sorry. They have 572 followers on Instagram. Honestly, they're so cute.
And they always wear their high school uniforms.
And they wear their little high school uniforms.
I want to know, if you are Thai, please explain to me why people wear their high school uniforms literally every day of the week.
I mean,
for everything that
look
they
how
do.
cute. You can't really see that, but
They're very cute.
look them up on Instagram. They're so cute.
There was someone live streaming their performance.
And they
it was
were
so singing
absolutely killing it. And so I'm on the band's IG, and in the IG description, they have all of the members listed. And I'm like going through, and I'm like, and I get to one boy, and he has way more followers than anyone else.
Oh my God, he has 11,000.
Yeah. And so he has way more than anyone else. And I was like, and so I switched over to Let's Talk BL because I was on my personal and I looked him up because I was like, why does he have so many more followers than anyone else in this band? And so I switch over to Let's Talk BL IG, right? To see like who, you know,
who this boy
is. And that's when it hits me. It's followed by Peak. And I was like, he's Peak's brother.
They look identical.
I realized, I was like, he's Peak's brother.
It was insane.
That's why.
And then we had a full circle moment with Make It Right.
Yes.
Guys, so, there's so much to do.
When I say there's boys everywhere.
Truly. There's so much to do and see. You could do anything and everything. Pick your dates. Decide what you want to see. Decide what you want to do. We literally, like, even just like going to Guns Last House on the Right was just the coolest experience.
Oh, also, it's legitimately the last house on the right. Like, it's at the end of this alley, and it's so the cool. Last house on the right side of this alley. I mean, truly. When I tell you, Gun ATP also, is the coolest man.
Go to Tool's Massage Parlor. He just opened up a brand new location, and it's awesome. It's a cool experience. It was very relaxing. I loved it so much. There's so many cafes. There's so many clothing stores.
You're gonna run into a birthday cafe. So like the day that you went, so you went to, I don't do massages. So you went to Tool's Massage Parlor, and I would like walk around the mall because that's what you do in Bangkok. Yeah. No, I needed to buy something. And after I had bought the thing I needed to buy, I went back over to Gentlewoman, and across from Gentlewoman in Siam, there's a Bake-A-Wish, which these Bake-A-Wishes are everywhere. And it happened to be Benz's birthday cafe because it was his B-day that day. That's the same place that they were having Park's birthday cafe. You're going to run into birthday there's so many things.
Also follow fan clubs for birthday cafes. Birthday cafes are really cool. And a lot of times the boys do show up at some point. If they'll like,
usually they'll post when they're going to go. Yeah. And usually you do have to register in advance. So like Tad from Atlas, it was his birthday, and we knew we wanted to go to his birthday cafe, and then it was my fault. I missed the registration for us to go the day that he was going to be there, which was very sad, but it was fine because the day that we went, there was no one else there, and they were really excited that we were foreign fans, and they were so nice to us.
They like took a picture.
They took a picture of us.
Like, tagged Let's Talk BL. Yeah. Was the whole thing. So yeah,
but it was really fun. There was like a really cool gallery. Yeah, there's so much to do.
Bangkok is awesome.
But these are the tips for planning the BL part of it. We will be back with another episode to talk about just the malls. We're going to talk about just Gun Smile, I'm sure, at some point.
Stay tuned for Let's Talk BL Thailand tours.
No.
Listen, we had so many people tell us that they'd sign up for that.
And I feel like 2 people.
I feel like maybe there could be something. We could do it. If we can go somewhere, we can go somewhere. This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.